Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I want to talk to you about the latest episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. It was called Will the Real May Please Stand Up? So as it starts, we see that, as I said last week would be the case, Tim survived the helicopter crash. Next, in Tindouf, Algeria, if I'm saying that correctly, in the airport, Kate and Kentaro discuss what their dad was doing in the desert before wondering where May is, before realizing she's missing and suspect she's been taken by Monarch, which, as far as the audience knows at this point, is true because we do see her get taken. We then get a flashback to Seattle 3 years previously, where May is at dinner with a friend who wants May to come work with her. Back at the airport in 2015, Kate and Kentaro find Tim stumbling around at the airport and confront him about May, but he seems not to know what they're talking about, and he explains that his goals are aligned with their father's work to stop Titan attacks, not opposed to that work. So Kay asks him to prove it and says if he does, she'll help him find Shaw, which he's trying to do. Tim reports in to headquarters and reads his boss the riot act for forcing the kids into Shaw's arms after getting fired by refusing to immediately come in. And when he asks his boss if she has May, she denies knowing anything about it. Kate then talks with Kentaro and convinces him to help her find May. At an Alaskan Monarch base, some troops led by the French lady and Shaw show up to take it over, and Shaw offers the people there a choice to stay or go. Barnes, the lady from the desert from a previous episode, witnesses this unseen and calls it in to Monarch headquarters. Tim tells the kids that May isn't May. We then see a flashback where we learn that she's really named Cora and that she took the job with her friend at AET, and that she at one point became disillusioned with how they were using her computer work. In Tacoma, Washington, the kids and Tim investigate Cora at her family's house after gaining entry by lying about how they know Cora, and then tail her sister by car. They catch up to Cora's sister in a parking garage, and she confronts them, so the kids come clean, and the sister explains that it's AET that's been after Cora. In a flashback, we see Cora go on the run with her sister's passport after apparently having stopped AET from experimenting on some monkeys, which her former boss confronts her about in the present. Tim and the kids go to AET but can't immediately get in, so Tim sets off a fake monster attack to sneak in during the chaos. Cora's boss tells her that the program she destroyed was aimed at trying to figure out how Titans work neurologically, and asks her to spy on the kids in exchange for being let off the hook, before coming clean to Tim and the kids about her past. Cora's boss tells her that the program she destroyed was aimed at trying to figure out how Titans work neurologically, and asks her to spy on the kids in exchange for being let off the hook. But when the kids and Tim show up, Cora comes clean to them about her past, sending them away, seemingly instead of taking the deal. Outside AET, they're all grabbed by Monarch, and Tim argues with his boss, who's confronted by Kate as well, who wants her help freeing Cora in exchange for helping the boss find Shaw. So the boss shows up at AET, at which point Cora is indeed set free and let off the hook, and goes home to her family before setting off with the Randas again to continue pursuing their goals, which now involve finding Shaw from Monarch. Tim's boss makes an announcement to the public about Monarch being in existence and what its mission is, during which we see clips of people hearing it, including May and Kate, who are sharing a cuddle. May's boss takes a new position at Apex Cybernetics after her deal with Monarch, and then in Alaska, as the episode ends, Shaw bombs some Titans, making a giant crater. So I like this episode. We found out a lot about May, aka Cora's past, and that the reason she's on the run and was in hiding and all of that was because she messed with AET and what they were doing to try to understand how Titans work, because they were apparently experimenting on monkeys with her code, and she didn't like that. I'm starting to really like the Tim character. You know, at the beginning, you kind of see him as a bad guy, but I think he's really a good guy, and I think he's going to be on the right side of this as things go forward, which is how I knew they hadn't killed him at the end of last episode for real, because I knew he was too significant to the overall story. And I'm liking that that's, coming true. I like that Monarch has now been announced to the public, that their hand was kind of forced and that they're not going to be in the shadows anymore. I think that's going to make it easier for, the good guys to move around and do what it is they're doing to try to protect people from Titan attacks. I have to say, though, I did find it a little concerning that Shaw did the things he did in this episode and just went about bombing the Titans. I mean, you know, he was supposedly against that kind of thing back when they did it to Godzilla in the 50s. So, like, why is he doing it now? And is he going to be like a fly in the ointment that, you know, does more harm than good in the end? That's what I'm kind of worried about. Like, okay, you're part of a team that wants to, you know, contain the Titans and protect humanity from the Titans, but is all out assault the best way to go? And are you going to create more problems by rushing in than you solve? So I'm a little worried about that. I'm hoping that before the series ends, we get a little bit more information, as we have been all along, about how he had his falling out with Monarch, and you know how the kid's father had a falling out with Monarch, and what that was all about. And I'm hoping we're going to eventually catch up with the father and learn more specifically what he's been up to. I was hoping we'd maybe get that this episode, given that we saw him at the end of last episode, but we didn't. So that was kind of a negative point towards this episode. But I think this is a really good show. I've enjoyed it thoroughly, except for maybe one episode, much more than the last few movies set in this universe, which I thought were kind of lame. This show is not lame. It's got good characters, and the plot is multifaceted in a way that doesn't jumble everything up. So I think that's good. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode. But that's really it. So I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back to do a recap and review of the next episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.